Welcome, everyone. Good evening. Wanted to call to order and remind everyone the board did not write the zoning ordinance, but does have the authority to grant relief from it where practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship would result. The board will vote on each agenda item following a public hearing. Use variances request a minimum of 6 affirmative votes in order to grant the requested variances. Non-use variance requests require a minimum of 5 affirmative votes in order to grant the variances. If you would like to request that the board table or adjourn your case due to the absence of a full board, which tonight we're down 1 member, you must inform the chairperson immediately after the public hearing. Petitioners shall do their best to limit presentations to 10 minutes. Each participant in a public hearing shall do their best to limit comments to 3 minutes. Good evening. It looks like we have everybody here except
Miss Gray.
Miss George.
Yes, Miss George, sorry.
Okay. Obviously, we don't have to call out everyone's name since we're in.
Correct, yes.
So first up, there's the approval of minutes for December 9th, 2021. Is there any motion or comments? I saw Ms. Dukin.
I will move to adopt the minutes from the December 9th meeting.
Mr. Clapp for the...
I'll support.
Okay. Any comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries.
I would like to make a motion. I know at the end of our agenda we have other business pending litigation, E1. Since the city's city attorney is here to address that, I was hoping we could move that up so we could address that first.
Okay.
Rather than
Is there a
waiting
second? Mr. Clint? Discussion? Anyone against? For? All right. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Move to... All right.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm sorry I can't see your faces, unlike the last time when we were on video. To refresh your memory, I'm Ann McLaughlin. I'm the defense counsel for the City of Royal Oak and the ZBA in the matter of DeMercurio et al. For the previous denial of a land division variance and non-use dimensional variances that were requested. You may recall that the circuit court in this case remanded the appeal back to this body for further articulation of the findings of fact to accompany the vote and motion that was made at the meeting of last May denying the variance. And so we have brought this back to this body for further action in accordance with the judge's order.
I guess I have a question, just procedurally here. Are we adopting findings of fact? That's like literally what we're being asked to do. Like, so if somebody were to make a motion, it would be, here's a list of our findings of fact relating to this, and then the board would be voting to approve those findings of fact. Is that how we're doing it, or are we like I just want to know procedurally what we're looking for and what you need us to do.
Okay. The first part of your question is correct, that you would be adopting findings of fact. You can reconsider the vote itself based on those findings of fact, if that's what you choose to do. But if all you want to do is just articulate findings of fact to support the previous decision, you may do that as well.
Okay.
All right. Is there any motions?
I'll make one. It's kind of long, but I'll read it off. So these are some proposed findings of fact relating to 1214 McLean Avenue, parcel 2522478051. This parcel currently has a lot width of 80 feet, a lot depth of 110 feet, and a lot area of 8,800 square feet. The applicant proposes to divide the property into 2 separate lots. The resulting lots would each have lots of 40 feet, lot depths of 110 feet, and total lot areas of 4,400 square feet. The property is zoned 1-family residential, and there is a home currently on the property. Under section 770-34D1 to 3 of the city's zoning ordinance, interior lots in this zoning district must have a minimum lot width of 50 feet, a minimum lot depth of 100 feet, and a minimum lot area of 6,000 square feet. Accordingly, the proposed lots would not conform to the width and lot coverage requirements under the ordinance. According to zoning ordinance section 770-34, a lot may be divided to create lots below the minimum required dimensional standards, provided the resulting lots are the same size or larger than 50% of the lots on the same block. The proposed lots are the same size as only 6 other lots, or 11% of the lots on the block. And the proposed lots are not larger than any other lot on the same block. There are 3 more lots that are 40 feet wide, totaling 16% of the lots on the block, but they are deeper than 110 feet of the existing and proposed lots and are closer to 5,000 square feet in total area. The city has experienced more flooding in recent years and months, like the extreme rain event of August of 2014 and flooding of June 2021. The city has an overall goal to prevent flooding by decreasing the amount of impervious surfaces and creating more green space where possible to lessen the amount of surface water runoff. Related to this concern, the applicant proposes to demolish the home on the existing lot and to construct a house on each proposed lot. Constructing a house on each lot would increase the density of the residential use of the property by adding another household to the property, construction of impermeable infrastructure to support it. A house on each proposed lot would increase the impervious surfaces on this property contrary to the city's goals. Additionally, the petitioner alleged that the practical difficulty was that the 80-foot lot width was out of character for the neighborhood. Several members of the public, including neighboring and nearby property owners, were opposed to the lot split, although some were also in favor of it. And then relating to the reasons for us denying the variance, we found that strict compliance with the zoning ordinance provisions will not unreasonably prevent the petitioner from use and enjoyment of the property for a permitted purpose, a residential use, or would not render conformity with such provisions unnecessarily burdensome. Granting the variances would prove detrimental to other property owners in the area. There are not circumstances or conditions inherently unique to the property that necessitates granting the variances. There is no evidence of practical difficulty, and there are not inherently unique circumstances or conditions of the property that requires granting the variances, and the proposed lots would not be consistent with the width, size, and general character of the lots in the neighborhood. Further, the proposed lot sizes would not provide adequate buildable area to allow the construction of a dwelling which is in character with the neighborhood. So, that's my motion to
Accept those findings of fact.
yes.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Mr. Dugan seconds. All right, discussion. Any? All right, seeing no discussion, is anyone having an issue with the findings of fact? Or,
Yeah, I have an issue. There's a lot there, and I won't be able to vote in favor of those findings because I can't verify that. And, I was originally opposed to our decision that we made, and I haven't changed my mind. So that's the difficulty I have with this motion.
that's fine. Any other discussion points? Well, personally, I think that was very clearly stated as to what the facts were of how the lot split does not conform to what the city ordinance states, as well as meeting any of the hardships that are out there required. So I have no problem supporting this motion as proposed. Mr. Pratt?
Yeah, I would like to point out that I was a yes vote the first time around, but I do agree with the new findings of fact. After we took a deeper dive into this, I now understand this better and agree with what was stated.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Moore?
Yeah, I'll agree with those as well. I think they were very well stated and they were all accurate to the reason that this was denied.
Any other comments? All right, seeing none, we'll move to vote. Please, show of hands, correct?
Sure. Sure.
Okay, show of hands for all those in favor. Okay, all those opposed? All right, thank you. The motion carries, thank you. Old business, case 21-12-53 was withdrawn, and that will come up later on in new business.
Yes, as a new request.
So first case of new business is case number 22-01-01, 4325 Delamere Boulevard. Mr. Murphy, whenever you are ready.
So this property is located on the west side of Delamere, between Normandy and 14 Mile Road. It's in the city's general industrial zoning district. Back in December, the Planning Commission granted site plan and special land use approval contingent upon the petitioner receiving the requested parking variance at tonight's meeting. And the petitioner is proposing to establish an automobile service center with washing, polishing, and detailing of vehicles at this site. I'm going to refer to the floor plan. Well, I'll point out, and the petitioner can reference this as well. You'll see on the screen in front of you. This is the site at the corner of Delamere and Delamere Court, and the petitioner currently has an operation around the corner on Delamere Court. You'll see the site plan on the screen, which shows the number of parking spaces that they have and the general layout of the building. I'll go to the next page, which will show the specific floor plan for their business model. And you can see that they have 14 service bays inside the building, and then they have a variety of space dedicated to professional office and storage. I'll jump back to a different page to give you a breakdown to show how we determine the required amount of parking. So the zoning ordinance does require a certain amount of parking based on the uses within the collective uses within the building. You'll see the service center requires one parking space per 800 square feet of it, and it requires a total of 11 spaces. There are 14 service bays. Each service bay requires a parking space outside of the building, a parking space associated with it, and then there's a storage, mezzanine, and an office space. In total, they're required to have 32 parking spaces, and the approved site plan that I'll jump back to shows a total of 28. So they're seeking that parking, that difference of 4 spaces. The one thing I will note is that many of the businesses along this segment of Delamere Boulevard have approached the City Commission about repaving the roadway and reconditioning the right-of-way. In this particular instance, the petitioner has reflected the design that will ultimately be constructed, and it's for 4 parking spaces in front of the business. Those are not on their private property. They are within the city's right-of-way. And the petitioner will have a license agreement. They won't have exclusive use of them, but there will be 5 parking spaces within the public right-of-way for the public's use. We did not receive any written comments regarding this particular case. And if you have any questions, I can try and answer those.
Okay. Is there any questions for Mr. Murphy? Mr. Moore?
Is it typical that parking is calculated for storage, or is that just because that space could be utilized for other purposes?
No, we do have provisions. We've always had provisions in the ordinance. And it's a common practice to have some amount of parking required for space on a floor plan that's identified as storage. People do work in it. In this case, they come and go to try and get particular parts or elements associated with their business. So there is a parking count with it. It's a very low parking count in comparison to like a restaurant or general office space. And we do have the provision that for a service center, we require one parking space outside of the building, not, we don't count the space inside of the building. So you'll see they have 14 service bays in the building, which is great, but we require a parking space in the surface parking lot associated with it. And that's due to cars that come in for service. Someone brings one in while they're working on another. That one gets done, they store it outside, they bring the other one in. Customers are dropping, and the petitioner can describe their business plan better, but customers are dropping their vehicles off for a certain extended amount of time. And so vehicles will be on the site, and they can attest to that in their business practice that they've had for several years now, right around the corner on Delamere Court.
Okay, thanks.
Do the 5 parking spots on the median there that they're proposed, that would be relief for the 4 that they're missing right now, is that correct?
Those spaces will be available to anyone.
Okay.
Just like there's a smattering of pavement all over. If you've ever driven down that street,
Right.
it's some segments are very well defined in terms of parking spaces and delineated, and other segments just paved and in terrible condition. So this will, the whole corridor will receive a much safer condition and clearly designated parking spaces that anyone can use. And I'll state again that the petitioner and the property owner probably have a clear understanding as to the context that exists on that segment and how businesses or property owners kind of govern who uses and who doesn't use that altogether free parking. I imagine they have kind of a self-governing system over that.
Thank you.
That's great.
Do we know when that parking is happening, the additional parking in the right-of-way?
Yeah, that project will be next year, next spring.
Mr. Eddy.
I apologize because I know I've asked this before, and I'll try to remember this time. Do you know how old the formula is that calculates these numbers?
Let's look at those. I think that from the best of my recollection, the service center, I think that was changed more recently, and it's more generous now. It doesn't require as much.
Okay.
The service bays, I believe that's been a provision that's been in place for quite some time. The storage, I think that stayed the same, and the office has stayed the same for quite some time as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. And some of these, that's why we have the opportunity to have a discussion with the board to see the uniqueness of their circumstance and why they believe that these provisions maybe don't apply to their operation.
Any other questions for Mr. Murphy? All right, seeing none, if the petitioner is present, may they come forward, state their name and address for the record.
Hello. How you doing? Matt Lifter, Motor City Auto Spa. My home address?
Your business address.
Well, I have 2 locations in Royal Oak. So 901 West 11 Mile Road and then 4300 Delamere Court. And I live in Royal Oak.
And you can go ahead and present your case if you like.
Yeah, I know that based on this calculation, it says 32 spaces. We're able to come up with, we've tried with MGA, Andy Mosey, every configuration possible. So we got it to 28, I think that was the number, correct? And we're not allowed to use the 5 spots that I have to pay for on Delamere Court, unfortunately. And I understand, I guess, the logic of that, but I'm paying for them. And then there is parking available on Delamere Court on the north side of the building, from my understanding. But 28 spots is a beautiful number because I deal with this teeny little lot on 11 Mile across from the YMCA, and my parking is extremely tight there. And then in my Delamere Court location, my parking is very tight there. So this parking lot is like beautiful, 28 spots. So yeah, that's I'm not sure what else to say.
there any questions for the petitioner? I saw Mr. Platt's hand first and then Ms. Zukin.
I was just going to say, can you explain your business operations? Maybe like, for example, it says you need 5 parking spaces for the office. I mean, how many staff members do you have? What's the average number of customers maybe coming and going? That might be helpful for us to understand
so
your actual needs versus what's required.
as far as office space goes, literally there's no office personnel per se. The managers and me are the folks that answer the phones and deal with the customers in the lobby. There's no personnel that sit in the front office area.
Okay.
It's just staff, detailers, window tint installers, paint protection film installers, ceramic coating installers, detailing, polishing, waxing. So just my standard staff.
So if you could estimate the number of staff in any given shift, what could that be? Just paint a picture.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay.
It kind of depends seasonality. When it's salts on the road, we slow down. So
Yeah, and I know you've been in business. I've been by your operation 11 Mile
Yeah.
numerous times, so
for a long time.
So I'm comfortable you're aware of your parking needs for this.
Oh
too.
yeah,
So you
yeah.
feel that 28
yeah,
is more than
this
adequate.
parking lot is amazing.
Thank you.
Because if you drive up to Dakota or all those other streets, it's like, oh my gosh, the parking is crazy. It's an interesting area. But I'm going to beautify the building. I obviously have to have the building looking nice for people picking up their pretty cars. So a lot of work to do.
Ms. Zukin.
Out of curiosity, I go by the 11 Miles facility all the time. How many bays do you have there and how many parking spots do you have?
Yeah, so we have eight spots inside. 1, 2, 3. About 8 cars inside. And outside the parking lot is like, it's the one side and it's probably got not maybe 9 spots and then 2 out front. Yeah.
Are they,
1 handicap spot.
are they
and then-
all, is it always filled or overflowing?
It's full. Once you put employees in there and then you get customer cars, it's always a challenge at the 11 Mile location. Plus, 14 years ago when I purchased that building, the planning commission, I think, I don't know if it was the zoning or planning, I can't remember because it's my 3rd time through, they made me rip out a lot of parking lot to put large landscape areas in, which was like, I need the parking spots, but we carved out these large landscape areas, which they look great, they do, it's a tough one with the parking at the 11 Mile location. But we make it work for 13 years.
Any other, Mr. Moore?
Yes. Are you moving your operations here, or are you keeping your other facility
Yeah, so that's
as well?
something I'm still trying to figure out. I just know that this building is larger and I can continue to grow. I hire a lot of Royal Oak High School kids. I think I have 4 on staff right now. One of them actually, he graduated 2 years ago. He's a manager now, and he's been certified in multiple things. So it just gives me an opportunity to continue to grow, because the Delamere Court location, which I built out 4 years ago, just over 4 years ago, it's amazing how full we are.
Mm-hmm.
It's just hard for me to grow my operation in that space. So I might continue to use that building as well and grow in that building too. I just don't know, but I know that the operation is going to move to the new building for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that was my question. If you were planning to use that as like an overflow.
Yeah, it's good.
Or if you have a plan for when this facility is full and you're that busy that you have nowhere else to put another car.
Right. So I own both of the buildings.
Okay. Sure.
There's a variety of opportunity for me to figure out what I'm going to do with the Delamere Court location.
Okay.
But one of them obviously is continue to just keep that building and do what we do there. And if I decide that the new location's large enough and I can grow enough there, then maybe rent out Delamere Court. I don't know.
Okay.
You know,
All right.
that's what I
Thanks.
just got to figure that out.
Sure.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, we'll pull the side, public comment, that's right. Is there anyone here to speak on public comment for this case? All right, seeing none, we'll pull it back to the side of the board and look for a discussion or comment.
Before we do that, I couldn't recall if you offered to
Yep,
postpone.
Thank you. We're down one member. Do you wish for us to go forward and vote on this, or
Oh, yeah, vote, yeah, because this delayed me a month, and let's vote, and hopefully we get thumbs up.
All right, and we'll pull it back to this side of the board for motions and/or comments. Mr. Clark.
I'll make a motion to approve the requested variance to waive the 4 parking spaces.
All right, and I see Mr. Devon is a second. Go ahead, Mr. Clark.
Now, I think the petitioner did a fair job explaining his actual parking needs, based on his experience with his other locations, so I think that's fair. And I also feel the inclusion of those 5 spaces along the right-of-way will be used by your customers. I think these surrounding properties have ample parking to support their businesses, and it's safe to say that those 5 will be used for your business.
Yeah,
So for those reasons.
During operations, yeah. I think at night, the CrossFit gym. So, well,
So that's my
thank
reason.
you.
Mr. Devon?
I have nothing else to add.
Okay, any other comments? All right. I agree, the practical difficulties in this case happens to be a unique circumstance of his business of having all those bays and what he does, and having the fact of those 5 spots right in front, and where I can understand it's sort of like Woodward, where you got them, but we can't count them towards you, so
Yeah.
that's a unique circumstance in this location. So because of that, I have no problem supporting this motion as proposed. All right. If there's no other comments, we'll move to a vote. Please raise your hand if you're all in favor. And say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? No noes? Congratulations, unanimous passing. Best of luck to you.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Next case is 22-01-02, 2210 North Connecticut Avenue. Whenever you are ready, Mr. Murphy.
This property is located on the east side of Connecticut. It's north of 12 Mile Road and west of Campbell. Property has a lot width of 99 feet, a lot depth of 155, and a lot of area over 15,000 square feet. As you can see based on the aerial photograph on the screen, it's got a single-family home and a detached garage that are placed on the northern half of the lot, and the southern half of the lot is unimproved or open grass area. And I think it's best to take a look at the photograph to clearly illustrate that. There we go. And the petitioner proposes to modify the existing single-family home and the existing detached garage in order to create a new vacant lot on that south half. And I'm going to jump to the survey. There's some physical modifications that are required to the structures in order to accomplish that. And you'll see a little reference here to be removed. There's a segment of the house to be removed so that they can have enough of a side yard setback to the new lot line, which is the darker shaded line. And a driveway that leads to the garage, which will be set further back on the lot and further in so that it meets the side yard setbacks. And that will result in an adjacent lot next to it of 45 feet in width. And the zoning ordinance allows us to staff to review, it requires that interior lots need to be a minimum width of 50 feet. However, it allows staff to review the lots that are being created in terms of their width, depth, and area if they don't meet the minimum lot size provisions. It allows staff to look at the block and determine if what's being created is the same size or larger than the majority on the block. So the resulting lot A, which is shown on the survey, and resulting lot B, A contains the house and it would be 54 feet in width. It exceeds the minimum lot width requirement. The newly created parcel B would be 45 feet in width. So we're looking at a 45-foot wide lot, and whether that's the same size or larger than the majority on that defined block. And if it is, we have the ability to approve the proposal administratively. In this particular instance, obviously it does not. It's not the same size or larger than the majority. It only compares 30%. It's only the same size or larger than 30% on the block. So it doesn't meet that standard. And by, under the ordinance, they then must seek the variance request from the minimum lot size, the lot width, which is 50 feet. So they're seeking a variance of 5 feet from that minimum width of 50 feet to create a new 45-foot wide lot. And as we discuss the resulting parcel with the house and the garage on it, that meets its minimum lot size and setback and area lot coverage requirements, so it would not need any variances. They're seeking the variance request specifically related to creating the minimum of the lot size for the new lot parcel B. And we did get an email, staff got an email of public comment, and it's included. We got that later this afternoon or mid-afternoon, and it's uploaded and attached to the report for your review.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Murphy, Mr. Clay?
Quick question, just to make sure we're on the same page, just to define the block. So from an average standpoint, the homes that your team assessed, just as safe to say, it's the east and west side of North Connecticut, and it's bound by Parkdale to the north and Houstonia to the south. Would that be a fair assumption?
Yes.
Those were the homes
Yes.
that were averaged? Okay.
Correct. Under the ordinance, that's exactly how that's how it's applied. That's correct. It's a clearly defined block, and you've correctly noted. The one exception is that corner lots are not included in that analysis. So they're creating a lot on the interior of the block. So we only compare what they're proposing with the other interior lots on that block that you clearly identified. We do not include the corner lots in that calculation.
So four of the homes wouldn't be included, essentially?
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Murphy? All right, seeing none. The petitioner is present. They may come forward, state their name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Joe Morris. I'm the Cranbrook Building Company, and we own the property on 2210 Connecticut. Been building in your city for a number of years, and we try to bring high quality and good products for people to enjoy. This particular property, when we looked at it, shame on me, it's things sell very quickly. We're all enjoying that, especially in this town, and everybody wants to be here, and you guys are doing a great job, and got caught up in this 99-foot lot thing, where it's, oh yeah, the house is on 2 lots. Okay, so we've struggled with this from the fact that the existing home at 2210 is a very unique ranch home, somewhat unusual with the size of it and the fact that it has a concrete poured basement, and it's just in absolutely mint condition. So when we realized that we had a bit of an issue here with the lot sizes, we looked at, okay, do we tear down a beautiful home that we intend to remodel? And we've talked to the neighbors, and the adjacent neighbors were happy that we weren't going to wreck the house because it's been there a long time, and they've been there a long time. And it's a nice site, beautiful mature trees. So we don't want to disturb any of that. I believe that this makes a lot of sense from the standpoint that if you look at least the list that I saw, and Mr. Murphy was wonderful, as trying to explain all this to me with the averaging and all that. And then but I look at the west side of Connecticut, and 60% of the lots on that side of the street are 45 footers. So anybody across the street from this lot, they all live on 45-foot lots, and the perceived view, the way we have the new houses, would be spaced out, and I colored that thing in. So all the green ones are 45s. The red ones are the lots we're discussing. And then I think a couple of years ago, the two yellow ones were considered on a similar basis of, okay, we got a nice house here, we can fix it and keep the character of the neighborhood. And, you know, for us to take a foot off of the house that's existing there is almost impossible, because we'd have to take the basement down, all these things that would have to happen to squeeze that over. But I think we would still be faced with coming back to see you folks because we have 99 feet. And if I split it evenly, that's two 49.5-foot lots. And interestingly enough, if you look back in time, and there's no way to prove what the thoughts were at the time this subdivision was platted, all the lots even on the east side of Connecticut that we're looking at were all originally 45-foot lots. And then why or how this 45-foot lot got left there all these years, there's no records to indicate why that is. So I think that this was our reasoning, is trying to save a house, improve the other half of the land, consistent with the neighborhood. We don't need any variances for a new house. We got the 15-foot total setback. We got the square footage. We got a nice deep lot. We got nice trees around the perimeter. We don't have to touch any of that. So that was our, you know, proposal for reasonable use of this parcel.
All right. Is there any questions for the petitioner? Ms. Zukin?
Do you have plans existing for what you're going to build on it?
Yes, I do.
What kind? Can you describe it to us?
It's a colonial house. I actually have the very similar model under construction at this time on Woodside. If anybody wanted to drive by it, but it's a 4-bedroom, full basement home, detached garage, upstairs laundry room, nice sized living room, dining room, office, whatever you want to call it, first floor walk-in pantry, powder room, 2 baths, 2 full baths upstairs. So it's a 2.5 bath home. Just a real nice home with, you know, typical, we like kind of, I'm going to say, craftsman design that is very popular in this town as well.
And you said you won't be requesting any variances for that one?
No, we can build a beautiful home there. We would not come back and ask for anything.
Is there any other questions for the petitioner? All right, seeing,
Oh,
Mr.
I guess there's one quick question. Did you, I'm not sure which address, I didn't see the letter. It looks like it's in opposition.
Oh, they're right behind.
I saw it today. I didn't see that earlier though. Did you reach out to the neighbors?
Yeah, we visited with several of the neighbors that we could, both of them adjacent. There's a lady to the north of the existing home, and explained to them what was happening. They were concerned about the trees and so forth. The lady, very nice. Everybody over there is really nice. And the people that we did talk to, it was kind of tough because of Christmas and everything, and with the COVID, nobody wants to answer the door. You know, it's tough. But we didn't. You know, I'd be happy to talk to anybody that doesn't like it, but.
But you made an effort to reach out. It sounds like. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
What practical difficulty do you have besides not wanting to take down the existing house of using that lot as it is with the double lot instead of splitting it up?
I don't believe that, look, certainly we could knock the house down, build a huge house over there with the land cost, and you know, you have to work the numbers to, and there's some giant homes on Vermont over there on the golf course, but it doesn't, in my humble opinion, it doesn't fit the neighborhood. It's, you know, you build a 5,000-foot house there, and all these houses are 12 to 1,800 feet, 2,000, 2,500 feet, whatever they are. They're not that big, and it's just, then you end up with a hotel in the middle of the subdivision. I mean, we've had interest in the whole lot. We really don't want to do that. It's not really what we do.
Okay. Any other questions for the petitioner? All right, seeing none, we'll open this up for public comment.
Before you do, I failed to point out something I think is relevant. It's in the report, but in 2003 there was a variance request, not the exact same variance request, but a variance request related to the minimum lot size to create a land division, and that was not approved. For whatever that's worth, I think it's important to at least point that out, that it's in the report, and that was the circumstance in 2003.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Public comment, anyone here to wish to speak for or against this? No one? All right, then, sir, we're short one board member. Do you want us to proceed with voting on this or table this till next month?
You need what, 5?
Yeah, 5.
Oh, let's do it.
Okay, thank you. We'll bring it back to this side for any motions and or discussion. Ms. Zukin.
I have a question for Mr. Murphy. Do you happen to recall in 2003 what size the two lots, resulting lots were going to be?
We can take a look and
I think it was the same thing. 55 and 45.
I think it was the same, but
Yep.
they were also asking for some other setbacks.
because the
or
petitioner
waivers.
they've offered to modify the existing home, and I'm going to scroll down to it so you can see. He's proposing to modify it by removing this segment that sticks out, and that's shown on his survey. The previous request was probably to keep that, and they needed a variance related to the setback from it versus what the petitioner is proposing from the main segment of the home.
Well, we want to improve that elevation as well. I didn't bring that up, but that little addition that's on there is pretty ugly. And it's sticking out, you know. So we want to do that and put a new kitchen in, new baths, update it a little bit, and be good for a long time.
Okay.
Another question for Mr. Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
If this is granted, it's only as to parcel B, is there any way to enforce the modification of the house that's existing to comply with the setbacks?
He would have, without looking at all the details, I believe that you're referring to a little notch.
Right.
I'd have to go back and look at the calculation spreadsheet, but keeping that may have necessitated another variance request. So if it's not part of this approval, then yes, he would have to lop it off to meet the setback and not have to seek a variance request for that element of that parcel. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay.
I'm having a hard time following that.
A question for Mr. Murphy. So on that right-hand side where the driveway is, I always forget this. Do we know what that setback would be, or what is the minimal driveway width required? I mean, that seems like a fair driveway size, so I understand where they place the lot line. But what is the bare minimum? Is it 8 feet?
Correct.
8 feet, okay. But 8 feet, as we know, is a little bit tight to actually pull a vehicle through with mirrors extended, and a fence and a building. So, okay. Thank you. So they could, they could pick up a foot essentially on that lot, it sounds like, or 1.9 feet, but it makes that driveway pretty unusable.
Any other comments or motions, Mr. Gavin?
For the sake of moving things along, I guess, I'm going to move to grant the variance as requested.
Is there a second? I see Mr. Klatt raised his hand first. Go ahead, Mr. Gavin.
I know given the findings of fact that we discussed earlier, this one's it's like kind of like splitting hairs. At what point does it become okay and at what point is it not okay? I think the thing that kicks it over for me is, in this instance, all, the larger number of lots that are 45 in width, and then looking at many of the other ones that are on that side of the street, they're still fairly close. Most of them are 49 feet, there's a good chunk of them. So it was a tougher call for me, but I think in the end I'm coming down on the side of being okay with this one. I think the other thing that, and I know this doesn't go to any of our factors, but I really liked the fact that you have a plan in place for what you're going to construct there, and it doesn't require any variances, because that always worries me, is that we grant one of these and then somebody comes back and needs a ton of variances because it's such a narrow lot width, and why did we approve it in the first place? Mm-hmm. So that's the reason I'm coming down and being good with this. I think I understand the concerns of our one write-in comment, but with all the other lots that are that appropriate size there, and the fact that they're preserving this existing house, I think it meets our factors, and I'm in favor.
Okay. Mr. Pratt?
I think Mr. Gavin summed that up well. I was initially leaning towards no after I did my own calculations, so I asked Mr. Murphy the question about how they define the block. But I factored in the corner lots, so my numbers were a bit skewed. The applicant mentioned it's on the west side of the street, it's 60%. It appears, I didn't check the math, but it appears that 60% of the lots are 45 feet in width. And that's a good stretch of those homes on that right across the street that are 45 that are directly across from this. So I guess if you look at it from a look and feel standpoint, if you walk the street, I feel that 45-foot lot could feel like it belongs there. I know the east side has larger lots, but I don't think it would be that out of place, in my opinion. So the fact those corner lots are taken out of that equation helped to influence my change of thought.
Ms. Grant, since you had your hand up, did you want to speak next? Or?
Yeah, I'm also good with granting this variance. I agree with what these guys said, that there are a fair number of the 45-foot width lots, and the fact that they're preserving one of the homes makes me lean towards a yes for this.
Any other comments? Mr. Moore, and then Ms. Sukin.
Sure. My only comment on this is the petitioner did mention that, if he decided to do another plan, he would have to come back to us anyways. Other than that, he would be able to build one giant home in the middle of these two lots, and I'm not sure that the neighbors would like that any better. I think that these lots, that the way they are, fit in better with the neighborhood than what the alternative could be.
Ms. Sukin.
I'm a little torn on this one. I hate to lose green space, but with 60% of the houses, lots on the other side being 45, it's not as objectionable, although that house will not fit in the same way, but we're just supposed to be looking at the 45 feet and whether or not that fits in the neighborhood. So I'm still not sure. I'd like to hear if anybody else has any comments.
Ms. Robinson?
I'm torn on this too, because I don't like to see us build on every piece of green space that we have. And the fact that this is going to be a 45-foot, for an awful lot of these over here are more like 49 feet. Is that right? Some are 50, okay. So I'm torn on this. I really do have a problem with building in another one in this very established neighborhood. It's where I am.
Mr. Redden?
I'll be in favor. Like other people have mentioned, on the other side of the street, the lots are a similar size. These were combined lots, so I think it's in character, and I'll be in favor.
Well, I'll give my 2 cents, which I'm very much torn on this too, because I'm usually very against lot splits, especially to lose the green space or to have the nice larger lot that some people have. But I'm realistic too in that on this one, theoretically, he could have came before staff and said, I'm going to split this lot 49 feet. Probably would have been administratively passed and torn down the one house and built 2 new houses. So he's trying to save money and be more sustainable in keeping the one house. This is the only double lot on the block, so even though it's under the majority of house widths, theoretically this is the only double lot here, so even when we split it, it's not going to affect any other lots that could be split because everything's built upon already. So where I usually am very apprehensive about allowing lot splits because it could create a domino effect. In this case, there's no other dominoes left to fall. So it then comes down to how much green space do I really care about on this, and being more sustainable and keeping an existing house and letting them just build a new one that takes up more impervious surface. So that's my thoughts. Any other thoughts, or are we ready to vote? All right. Looks like we're ready to vote. So I guess say aye and raise your hands because this will probably be a close one. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And nay? Okay. Just Ms. Robinson.
So motion carries.
Motion carries.
Thank you. You're approved. Thank you.
Sorry, that's bad. I'm holding my hands. Next case is 220103 Walnut Avenue 627. Whenever you are ready, Mr. Murphy.
This property is located on the south side of Walnut and it's near the intersection of Crooks and 12 Mount. It has an existing single-family home and a detached garage, and the petitioner proposes to remove the existing structures and construct a new 2-story single-family dwelling with a detached garage. I will note that the petitioner is going to be utilizing the foundation of the existing house to build that new 2-story structure. It does not require any variances. However, the proposed garage does require variances. This lot is 9,800 square feet in area, and the petitioner is proposing to build a garage that is 1,024 square feet in total floor area. The zoning ordinance allows for an accessory structure or garage to cover no more than 10% of the lot, and in no instance, no matter how big the lot is, in no instance more than being greater than 800 square feet in area. So they are seeking a variance request related to building the garage in excess of 800 square feet. And I'm going to refer to their renderings with regard to the next variance request. As you can see, the petitioner has a very defined style, and they can expand upon that, but they're utilizing some shipping containers to build an existing home, and that home will have a flat roof. There's no requirement in the zoning ordinance with regard to roof styles for single-family homes. However, there is for detached garages. And the provisions in the ordinance specify that a garage have either a mansard, hip, gabrel, or gambrel style roof that's compatible with the single-family home. Now, in this case, that's kind of a difficult thing to do with the fact that the garage is a flat roof garage, as you can see, and the house is flat roof. But ordinance does say that it needs to be specific styles of roofs. Flat roof is not one of those styles. So they are seeking a variance request to waive the roof styles so that they can have a garage that has the same style roof as the house. And the The only other one that came to my mind was an example on Curry Avenue, 1 block north of East 11 Mile Road, of a flat roof house and a flat roof garage, and I do believe that that one had a variance request as well. It's not something that we see very often. We did not receive any written comments with regard to this case.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions for Mr. Murphy? Mr. Clark?
Just one question. I didn't see it on the applicant's drawings, and I assume that they are less than 30% overall lot coverage. Do you know what that is offhand, Mr. Murphy, by any chance? I could have overlooked it.
I'll look it up, but I think they're almost right on the nose.
It looks pretty close. Sorry, not to put you on the spot.
No, it looks like I don't have access to Microsoft Excel
And that's okay.
on this computer. But let's look at their drawings. They can speak to that as well. But let's look at the front page of their drawings, and it may reference it. But from my memory, it was 30%.
Okay. Thank you.
Your coverage, it says 30. Oh, that's just stating the setbacks.
And I do have that. I just can't access Microsoft Excel.
Okay. Well, hopefully the petitioner can answer it. If not, that's okay. Any other questions for Mr. Murphy? All right, seeing none, if the petitioner is present, may they come forward and state their name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Nora Urbanski, and the home address is 627 Walnut Ave, Royal Oak, Michigan, 48073.
Yeah.
And this is Mark Reese.
Oh, sorry. I guess our architect has COVID, so he told us, or she told us, you guys are on your own today. So, hi, everybody. So, for your question about usage, all I know is that during our conversations, that it was important to them that we would stay within them. So I can't say the exact number, but I know it's definitely within like the margin required.
Otherwise it would have been here for an additional variance request.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But I guess the easiest one to discuss would be the last one, which is the flat roof. The house is flat roof. It would be ideal for the garage to follow that aesthetic. And the building next to it is also a flat roof. So that entire side of the block on Beechwood would then have the commonality to it. So I suppose if the purpose of this kind of
Keeping a cohesive look over there.
then it kind of meets that.
Yeah. And we've actually lived in Royal Oak since 2012, and then we expanded our business into a physical building in 2016, which is actually located right around the block from the home right here. So that kind of leads us into a little bit, speaking to a little bit more of why we're looking for the size that we're looking for this garage.
And so she says right around the block, it's kitty corner to it, so 620.
620 Cherry Ave.
Is also our property.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've kind of outgrown the property a bit, and it would have been ideal for us to have the ability to keep some of the vehicles that we use built. And so currently it means that we have to do a half a day of prep to do a camera car shoot.
Oh, we're a video production company. We've actually worked a lot with City of Royal Oak. They've joked that we've gotten the most film permits here than like anybody, and so we do a lot of work here as well with that.
So essentially, a larger garage allows us to kind of leave the structure built, so I don't have to hire extra people for an extra day. And so it'll just allow us to move a little bit faster. And so we're just looking for that size to allow us to do that. But I think, for the second one, we're 0.4% away from the allowable, which feels really, really close. But the first one, I obviously, we're a little bit further away from that, with 224 feet. But I think, we saw that lot go for sale, and we were like, this seems a lot easier than finding a new building for the business. Just at least having a structure to hold the vehicle. And I think we'll find out if it's true or not. But I think this is kind of where we are in the process. I don't know if that explains enough.
Is there any questions for the petitioner? Ms. Zukin and Mr. Clegg. And then Mr. Moore.
I love the design. It looks great, but are you telling us that you're going to be using your residential property for commercial use?
No, we just have a vehicle in particular that would be parked, that we have to build on. So like I guess it's difficult to really define that. I'm just looking for a place to put a vehicle along with our vehicle. And so we thought it would be easier to store it there built than to not. So it's more of a storage kind of issue than it would be the commercial use issue. That there's a difference.
Mr. Platt?
First question, did you reach out or talk to your neighbor to the east on Walnut, your next door neighbor? Do they have any thoughts about the garage size or the variance request?
The east. The direct residential neighbor.
Yes.
No, I don't know that we have. I would have happily. I think it's a new family there. But
Okay.
Again, kind of recently gone through the process. But otherwise, I think it would have been an easy conversation to have.
And they were notified. I guess other question is, in many instances, this board has approved garages that have exceeded 800 square feet if the lot supports it. But usually 10% is the control point, and it's rare that we've exceeded that, at least in my experience on the board. So, per my calculations, your lot is 9,800 square feet. So at 10%, you're building a 980 square foot garage, which is large. You mentioned the need for the vehicles, but can you better explain, I guess, your practical difficulty behind exceeding 980 square feet? It's well over a 30 by 30 garage. That's a big garage.
The vehicle, when we use it, essentially we build it out, and so it has a 12-foot arm on one end, and then another on the back of it, a counter arm for weight. So you've probably seen them around when they shoot automotive commercials. And so it's designed to be built, and so we do. But if we were to store it built, it would just allow us to move a little faster. And we've just been finding, especially in the last 2 years, that everything is last minute and everything is rushed. And it would just be advantageous in that regard.
Thank you.
I'm struggling to understand this vehicle in the garage. Is this a vehicle for your business around the corner? We're not talking like a regular passenger vehicle. I mean, I'm really kind of struggling with understanding.
It's an SUV. It's a standard SUV, and we use it for the business. But essentially, it's a street legal vehicle, and so we also can use it however we want as far as like practical use of it. But we find that we really don't use it that often unless it's specifically for this. So it's just been less and less these days. And so there was just this kind of realization that.
And it's something that wouldn't fit into a smaller garage. Is that?
I don't believe it would. Like, I currently we have it in our garage right now, and it even without the arm on it, it's just an SUV, like I said. It's a Cayenne,
Okay.
A black car. But it barely fits in our current garage.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the petitioner? The question I have is, going with Mr. Klatt's thought process of the 0.4 over, I believe that would be somewhere around, 7 feet, maybe maximum. It'd shave off, or maybe less than that. But would you have a problem with us taking that, or would you be willing to skinny up your garage, keep the depth you need, but skinny it up to keep that 10% so that you'd not have to worry about that variance?
Yeah, I think so. I think if it's a deal breaker, I don't have a problem with it. I think this earlier today, I really kind of got into what this was when I spoke with the representative of the architect, and when she told me that, I was kind of like, why didn't we just change it? But that's okay. I kind of, when I see that small percentage, I do understand why it seems like a simple request to change that.
Okay.
Are you, just for a point of clarification, is the conversation leading to a variance request that would be related to 10% of the garage being at no greater than 10% of the lot area?
Yes.
So their proposed garage is 1,024 square feet.
Right.
And the
980, so that would be
980, so they would be reducing it by
40 feet, so that would be a foot and a half.
244, I believe.
So what would the resulting variance be for it? Right now, it's to waive 224 square feet of the maximum 800. So that you can build at 1,024, if you can do the math. What would be the variance request then?
It would be what would that,
980 minus 10.
So it would be 980 feet.
Would it be 980 minus 800, so it's 180?
No, it would be 980 minus the
10.
11 that it currently is. So it's, or how big is it right now?
That's what I'm trying to find.
32 by 32.
32, yeah, so that's,
I want to say it's 1,000 and something. So
It's
essentially, it would be-
1,024.
it's talking about
244.
40 feet or so.
180 square feet. So A would waive 180 square feet of the maximum allowable accessory structure. ground floor
Which
area.
translates to him building a garage that's 44 square feet smaller than what he's
Right.
originally shown.
correct.
However you do that. This way, a combination
Yeah.
of it, but it would be 44 square feet smaller.
Sure. I know in the past that, we've typically not asked people to make these decisions on the fly, and I'm
I agree.
really uncomfortable for them without their architect present, so I know in the past we've offered people the ability to come back,
Yep, I was
and
gonna.
I'd be more
yep,
comfortable with that.
yep.
Okay.
That's no problem.
Cool.
No, I was gonna get to that
Sure.
too, of talking about that just.
I was going to have a related comment, especially since you mentioned that I heard somebody mention that the house is containers. Is the garage containers too, or is it not?
Interesting question.
That-
We are on the second or third builder.
Those are some standard
Yeah.
sizes, so
Yeah.
I don't know if lopping off footage on that is easy.
It is,
It's not?
it is
Okay.
my understanding is that it's currently like a combination of materials.
Okay.
And so I'm assuming that it was based on some type of thought process to this. But at the same time, because of the financing and the timing, it's one of those things where if 40 feet is going to make people happy, I'll just pay what that costs to the architect to figure it out. It's not ideal, but, that's what life is sometimes.
All right. So, is there any other questions for the petitioner? All right. So that sounds like you'd rather us just go forward, not delay it a month, and you can just talk with the architect about the 40 square feet to.
Yeah,
Should
I mean, we're talking
Should,
about...
yes, should the board approve
Sure.
the rest?
We're talking about 14 inches along one direction. So I really feel like
Approximately,
they
yeah.
can figure that out.
Okay.
And if not, I'm spending way too much money. So,
All righty.
So we're talking about approving 980 square feet?
Correct.
Yes.
So it's 180 square
100
foot variance.
Yeah, 180, and removing the B variance, because it would be at 10%.
Did we hold a public hearing? Did we hold a public hearing? I don't remember.
Not yet.
Okay, so I thought,
So-
let's do
Yeah.
that.
Okay, if there's no other questions for the petitioner, thank you very much. We will open up this for a public hearing. Is anyone to speak for or against this case? Oh, no. One last thing I was going to say. You sort of already alluded to it. We're down one person. You'd like us to proceed and not delay a month, right?
yeah, that would be ideal.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you. No problem. We'll bring it to this side of the board. Any motions or? Oh, sir.
Okay, so I'm trying to understand here. If we approve 980 and they go back to their architect, which they don't have with them tonight, and for some reason, that we may not be looking at, I mean, what if that doesn't work? I mean, are they then coming back for another request and paying another fee to come before us again? I'm just trying to understand what we're doing.
There's a possibility.
Okay, because I know you said you'll make it work, but I'm I'm just not comfortable for you without your architect. I mean, if,
That makes two of us.
yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like life is all about risk. So I'm happy to take it because worst case scenario, they give me an outlandish number for this change. Or best case scenario, they come to the same resolution that I am, which is 14 inches.
Okay, I mean, if you're comfortable, I just wanted you to,
You know?
know what you were up against.
Let's do it.
Okay,
What's the worst
thank you.
that can happen?
All right, thanks.
Thank you for double checking.
Yeah, no worries.
No problem. All right, is there any comments or motions?
Well, have we talked about, we're just talking about part A. We haven't talked about the roof, correct? The gamble, the flat roof?
Well, they brought up about how it's related to the
Okay,
block and everything.
we hadn't talked about it here, I guess.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that here yet.
I would say that if we didn't do the flat roof there, it would be the only flat roof on that side of the block it would be the only roof on that side of the block that's not flat. So,
Mr. Clint?
I'm going to make a motion to approve, and let me attempt to frame this here. So I'll make a motion to approve item C as is. That's waiving the requirement for the flat roof. Item A would be adjusted to waive 180 square feet. Somebody wants to double check the math. 180 square feet of the maximum allowable ground floor area. And then I believe because of that, item B would be removed. That request to be
And the
withdrawn.
petitioner can just withdraw that so there's a formal action on that.
Oh,
sure.
pardon?
Can we formally withdraw item B?
Okay, yep.
Thank you.
All right,
I believe that's it. Thank you.
sounds good.
I understood that.
Okay, good. Mr. Gavin seconds it. All right, Mr. Pratt?
No, I agree with your thought process on the flat roof. It makes sense. The house looks great, nice design. The garage should match, so I agree with that. And I think the reduction down to 10% makes it feel more comfortable with the lot, overall coverage in the lot. And that's my justification.
Mr. Gavin?
I don't have anything to add that we haven't discussed already. It's a good design. I appreciate you being flexible, even taking the flyer without your architect because it is a little risky. But I do appreciate your flexibility. So because we like to minimize variances where we can. So yeah, I'm in favor.
Mr. Moore?
I'll be voting in favor also. I think it's consistent with that side of the block like they've mentioned. And I look forward to coming by to watch the progress. I like to watch these container homes be built, so it'll be another one that I can keep my eye on.
Absolutely.
Oh, me too. There's one at Holiday Market over there too that I have my eye on.
Yeah, I watch that one all the
Like,
time. I
this
ride my
one's
bike
nice.
over there. Yep.
Mhm.
We do the same thing. We look right around. We like
Yeah.
to see where it's going. Actually, it's the same builder.
Oh.
Or the construction, the GC.
Contractor, yeah.
Contractor, the same.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Ms. Zukin?
It's hard for me to believe that the ordinance prohibiting flat roofs had in mind that houses would actually be built with a flat roof. So it doesn't make any sense to me, so I have absolutely no problem with that. I don't like seeing larger garages go in over the 800 square feet, but this particular lot abuts commercial property, and then there's vacant lot across Beechwood from it. So I don't see it being that much of a problem, whereas I would in another kind of neighborhood. So I'll be supporting it as amended.
Any other comments? All right, seeing none, I agree with the statements that have been stated, as well as the fact that this lot is a slightly larger lot, as we've already figured out with the 10% that it's over the normal 6,000 square foot lot. So in this case, it's closer to 9,800 square feet. So it is a little bit larger lot, so therefore I feel it can support a little bit larger garage. And I appreciate the petitioner willing to reduce down to the 10%. So because of that, I have no problem supporting this variance as requested. All right, seeing none, then we'll go to a vote. All in favor, say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Congratulations, and best luck to you in your container house.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll have to come by and watch its progress. All right. Case number 220104, 1215 East 6th Street. Whenever you are ready, Mr. Murphy.
This property is located on the north side of East 6th Street. It's near the intersection of Campbell and Lincoln. As you can see, based on the screen, it has a single-family home, and the single-family home maintains a non-conforming setback. I'm going to scroll in to show you. From the, I'll say the main plane of the house, it has a setback of 3.7 feet. And from the little bump out, which has a floor joist that extend further out, it's 2.75 feet. Ordinance requires, based on this lot width, requires a setback of at least 4 feet. And the petitioner is proposing to do a full second-story addition that's in line with that, in that, using the term, the main plane, the side of the house. So the second-story addition, again, is in line with that, which is, it results in a non-conforming second-story addition. It maintains that 3.7-foot setback. Then they're seeking a variance of 0.3 feet from that minimum required 4-foot setback. They're proposing to demolish the existing glass enclosed front porch, which is shown on the screen. And I'm going to jump to their, I think their elevation probably does it justice.
Yeah.
They'll be extending, that's a glass enclosed porch, so it's not under the zoning ordinance standards, it's not living space. And it'll be removed from the front face of the house, and there'll be a 2-story addition of that equal footprint. There'll be a 2-story addition of living space in its place. And I'm going to jump back to the survey to clearly illustrate that the house is the living space that they're adding in the front, where the current glass enclosed front porch is. It sticks out in front of the adjacent homes, and that's probably better shown on the photograph than the survey. Let me jump to the photograph. So this glass enclosed front porch gets removed. Its same size footprint will have that second story of ground floor and second story living space. It projects out further from each of the adjacent side properties on each side. So they're seeking a variance request from the minimum setback. They're seeking a variance request of 7.3 feet from the minimum required 31.1 foot south front yard setback. We did not receive any written comments with regard to this case.
Any questions for Mr. Murphy? All right. Seeing none, if the petitioner is present, they may come forward, state their name and address for the record.
Hello, my name's Chuck Brewer. I live at 41 Kensington in Pleasant Ridge. I'm here on behalf of my client Ed. He lives in the yellow house at 1215. Our plan is to keep what we can of the house, keep the foundation. We're not asking to extend or take any more lot coverage, except in the rear, which maintains the setbacks that are required. So the house is existing and non-conforming now. We're not looking to project into any more of the setbacks, like I mentioned. Ideally, we just want to maximize living space and incorporate part of the living space in that porch sunroom area that's not livable now, and then build the second story on top. So that's basically the plan.
Is there any questions for the petitioner, Ms. Zukin and then Mr. Clement?
So you're tearing the whole front off, which is the 7 feet that it extends into the setback area?
The footing for that is going to stay. So really it's just the porch, and it's basically staying in the same area and basically just going up from there.
Right, but when you're deconstructing it, you're keeping the same footing.
Correct.
So that's why you need to come out the 7 feet.
We're not coming out anymore, we're staying there.
No, but you're coming out beyond what would be required if you met the ordinance. That's That's my
I
point.
don't believe, Mr. Murphy, at the front, we're changing what was non-livable space or non-living space now.
Correct, but when you're altering a non-conforming structure, the idea is to bring it into conformity if you can. And if you're already ripping off the front of the house, I'm wondering why you can't bring it into conformity since it's going to be larger. And the fact that it's projecting out beyond the neighboring houses is going to make it more obvious.
It's not
because
coming
it's
out any
larger.
more than where it is now.
No, I know, it's
Okay.
exactly where it is, I understand
Okay.
that. But you have an opportunity to bring it within conformity, and I want to know what the practical difficulty in doing that would be.
Well, there's a full basement there now. There's the footings and foundations that are there now, so we're trying to maximize that, or not maximize that, leave that, and work with what's there. So, I mean, we could redesign it and just leave the porch as non-livable space, but if we go up and do the second floor, which we wanted to include as part of the square footage for bedrooms, then we'd still be non-conforming.
Correct.
Mr. Clinton and Mr. Moore.
My question's similar to Ms. Zukin. So number one, which I've been asking all night, did you reach out to the neighbors either side? Did you talk to them about your plans? Did they have any comments or feedback, support?
Yes, the homeowner, Ed, he's here tonight, he's my client.
Okay.
He has lived here 35 years, he knows both neighbors, he's talked to neighbors. Many of the houses on the street have been redone and are larger than what was there. No one had any issues that he knew of, and didn't sound like anyone sent anything in written that was notified, so we don't know of anyone who was opposed.
So, yeah, I understand the side yard condition. I mean, you're simply stacking on top. I get that. That makes sense. I would argue that where you are adding in the rear yard, you technically could make that comply by scooting it over, but it's 4 inches we're talking about. So I think that 4-inch offset may look out of place. So I generally don't have any issues with the side yard, but the front yard, which Ms. Zukin mentioned, that was my concern. I agree that right now you do enjoy what appears to be a built-out space, and that's already at that condition. But at the second level, why couldn't you push, the second floor is new, why couldn't you push your second floor back to comply at least? The first floor, maybe that works, but why not the second floor? Do you have justification or practical difficulty for the second floor expansion to be not conforming?
You maximize the existing footprint by going over rather than pushing back to get the 4 bedrooms, then everything would move back, and then we'd have an even bigger house. So we're just making the best use of what we have right now.
Can you please state your name and
My name is
address
April
for the...
Klein, I'm the designer.
Okay. You're a designer for the house?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, I understand the fact the foundation is there, and that makes sense, and I get that. But when we're designing, we do have to respect the ordinances. And the second floor is brand new. So I get it that you're trying to achieve 4 bedrooms, but that's the thing I'm struggling with, is why couldn't that have been factored in? Why couldn't the second floor, which is new, be held back to that standard? So it seems like what you're saying, it's a 4-bedroom.
To get the 4 bedrooms, we're gonna have to push the back of the house back. Because you lop off half that bedroom.
But isn't the backyard being expanded anyways?
Yes, but we would keep expanding. And right now, we're trying to consider the green space and the lot size.
Mr. Moore.
Yes, earlier when Ms. Zukin mentioned the front sunroom porch, you stated it would affect the basement, but I'm looking at the drawings here, and it looks like the sunroom is over a crawl space and not over the basement. So you're stating that would still affect the basement if that was brought into...
No, you're correct, I'm sorry.
Okay.
If we are to eliminate that, that also eliminates the front porch. So if we are to, say, build from that face of the secondary wall, we don't have much of a front porch because we are in the setback by using the existing foundation.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. We'll open up a public hearing. Anyone to speak for or against this case? Okay, seeing none. Real quick, we're short one board member. Would you like us to proceed this night, or would you like us to adjourn until next month with your case? When we might have a whole board, or we might not.
Please.
Okay, then we'll bring it back to the side of the table for comments and or motions. Anyone like to take the first crack? Mr. Gavin.
I'll knock out the easy ones. I move to approve variances A and B, alter, expand a non-conforming structure, and waive 3 feet, 0.3 feet of the minimum required 4-foot west side yard setback.
All right, Mr. Clapp seconds. Mr. Gavin.
This is, with respect to those, I think it's fairly straightforward. You know, they're building along the current building lines. They're using the existing foundation. They're just going up. You know, so I have no problem with that. And I think I think it's a reasonable request.
Mr. Clapp?
No, I agree with Mr. Gavin, and I already addressed those points when I first spoke.
Is there any other comments? I too agree, and I think the practical difficulty is the fact that you have an existing structure that isn't conforming and you're just wanting to make it better. So in order to do that, you have to grant the altering portion of it. And they're keeping in line with the existing lines, not making it any worse. So I have no problem with it. Right? Seeing no other comments, we'll move to vote. Please signify by saying aye and raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, A and B pass easy. Now comes, I can tell the harder one. Comment or motion for C.
Just to comment on this, I don't really have a problem with this. They do have an existing foundation under that old non-conforming porch, but it is there. Looking at the house, when I first saw this, I didn't quite understand. When I first looked at this, I thought it was like they were coming out an additional 7 feet. And when I looked down the street, it was like, this will be fine. This looks okay. It looks like it fits in with the neighborhood. So I think this looks nice. I think the fact that it was non-conforming, it was built probably 100 years ago. I don't know that for a fact, but it's an older home. And using that space and making it part of the house, I think it's because of the old part of the house that makes this, that's their hardship to make it work.
Mr. Clapp.
So to clarify my point, where I'm torn is that I am okay with it at the front yard because that's already there. That piece is there. It's already enclosed. It already looks like a built element of the house. It's not, although I guess it's maybe listed as a porch, it's really a built space. I'm more against the second story, but I understand if we deny this, it would deny the use at the first floor too. So that's where I'm torn. So it's just to clarify my point earlier.
Mr. Murphy, I'm assuming you can't say, yes, the first floor can be that and the second floor can't. Or is that?
It would be a redesign.
Yeah. It's
but
easier not to.
I just wanted to clarify
Yeah.
the reasons why I stated what I stated earlier. Mm-hmm. Mentioned what I stated earlier.
Mr. Moore.
So I guess that's my question too. I mean, if that variance is denied, we're not saying they have to tear this porch off the front of the house then,
Correct.
are we?
No.
It can stay in its non-conforming. It just can't be added
Couldn't be
to be more
reconstructed.
non-conforming.
Yep, it could not be added to with a second story, and it could not be torn down and rebuilt in the same manner as an enclosed porch. It would have to be an open porch.
Okay.
And meet the ordinance requirements in terms of no more than 7 feet out into the required front yard setback. And my mic off. I'll repeat some of that, sorry. It would not be allowed to have a second story added to it. It would not be allowed to be removed and reconstructed with living space. It could be removed and a new unenclosed, covered or uncovered front porch could be added that complied with the current ordinance requirements. So there's nothing that prevents them from removing it and constructing an unenclosed, open or covered open, a covered or uncovered front porch, but they would not be able to add a second floor to that. No.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess to clarify, in their design, the first floor, they are making that living space now, correct, per your opinion, Mr. Murphy?
Yes, because they're going to remove what's there down to its footing and construct a living space, correct. It would not be, that's what's proposed on the floor plan on the screen is a sunroom, and it meets, it's fully conditioned, it's living space. It's not a glass enclosed porch. It's living space, and that's what necessitates the variance request they're projecting out into the minimum required setback established for living space.
Thank you.
Any comments or motions? Anything to, yes, Mr. Reddy?
I move that we grant the variance,
Okay, is
the
there a
remaining one.
second? Is there a
C,
second?
yeah.
Any second?
I'll second.
Mr. Gavin seconds. All right, go ahead, Mr. Reddy.
I think the practical difficulty is the existing porch and footings are putting an obstacle in the way of building this addition, and it's due to the unique circumstance of the property, and I think it would do substantial justice for us to grant the variance.
Mr. Gavin?
I'm kind of torn on this one. On the one hand, like I completely understand the desire to use the existing footings, you know, to aid in the construction and the redesign, and they're not actually expanding anything that's already there. I mean, I walk past there all the time. I live like 3 blocks from this, and walking past that, I always just assumed it was, you know, kind of a, you know, it almost looks like living space. Many enclosed porches like that do. You know, so it's not actually gonna change. I mean, obviously they're adding the second story on top of it, but from a street perspective, it's not changing the appearance that much. But on the other hand, you know, it's kind of that, it encourages that creep towards the sidewalk, you know, if people enclosing front porches are adding more on. You know, I know the house to the one side is a new build, so it's probably not going to be dealt with for a long time, but the house right next to it, you know, it's going to change their, you know, their front yard setback if they were to do something. So I get both sides of it, you know, and I think I'm, for the most part, coming down in favor of this, but I am really torn on it. So, but I think I will be in favor of this, but I am torn.
Okay. Thank you. Any other, Ms. Grant?
I'm not in favor of this. I just think the 2-story sticking out that far doesn't really conform with the other houses in the neighborhood. The other houses are just porches they're out that far. So if it was a porch, I think it would be acceptable, but that it's being turned into a living space is not acceptable.
Thank you. Other comments, Mrs. Dukin?
I agree with Ms. Grant's comments and also Mr. Gavin's in opposition. Because I do think the second story build out just makes it too obtrusive and it increases the nonconformity too much for the neighborhood.
Mr. Clapp?
I'd like to hear the rest of the board members too, but I also want to point out in the past that in cases like this, when we're hearing these comments, that we have granted the applicant the ability to maybe table and relook at their design. Maybe there's a split down the middle where the first floor could be expanded, but the second floor does have to comply. So I just wanted to point that out too before we go to a vote.
I'll say that I think that that's maybe a good idea, that we could allow them the opportunity to come back.
Would you like to come up and speak on this idea?
Sorry, we just wanted to clarify. So if we did anything on the first floor to what's currently the screened-in porch, we'd be non-compliant, correct?
What does anything mean?
I'm sorry?
What do you mean by the term anything?
Oh, so if we wanted to make that livable space on the first floor, then we're already worsening the non-compliance.
You would be coming back for the exact same variance request.
Correct. So, I mean, if anything wanted to happen to that porch or screened-in porch, living space, turned into living space, then it would be a problem, and we'd need the same variance. So it's a matter of first floor or second floor. We'd basically, I think, be back again to ask for the same thing. That was your question.
Hi, Ed Steinke, 1215 East 6th Street. I've been living there for 35 years. I bought the house, had a ready-made family, so we did what we could to the house to get in it. I've raised 3 kids there. Love the porch. Absolutely love it. I use it all year round. The sun comes through, it warms that porch up to 100 degrees on a day like today, and I sit out there and enjoy it. Mr. Gavin's probably seen me sitting on my rocking chair many times. It's an important part of the house. She's 98 years old. Not asking a lot. Nothing's been done to it. I haven't been able to renovate the way I wanted to when we first bought, because I had a young family. Now I'm able to bring my dream to fruition, and that's all I'm asking for. Nothing more. Granted, the porch sticks out further than the other houses, but the new houses that are there, you're only looking at approximately 5 feet extension from their front facade of 2 stories. So, in other words, their houses are the 2 new houses there. Mine will be 5 feet further closer to the road. That house was built as one of 2 houses built on that street, original houses. 2 doors down is the other original house. And nothing has been done to that house, because they can't afford to do it either. But what's going to happen is somebody's going to come and buy that house from me, tear it down, and put up another big house. I'm not asking for that to happen. I love my house. I love my property. I love the green space. I enjoy my backyard. I enjoy my flowers and my green space. So I don't think I'm asking a whole lot out of it. I'm getting older. I know my kids are going to have to come and live with me one day. Just try and find space for them. So I hope you just take that into consideration also.
Thank you. Mr. Clark?
No, thank you for your comments. Appreciate that. And I understand that. And I also understand the comment, if somebody were to build a new house, they would also have to comply with the setback requirements too. My suggestion to table was simply to maybe meet in the middle. And I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but it's a case where lessening that variance request. You're asking to bring the whole face forward, where, in my opinion, I'm suggesting to lessen it. Maybe the first floor can remain. Expand that first floor footprint, put the second floor back. So that was my thought process behind it, was allowing you the ability to maybe lessen your request. Again, I'm not sure how the rest of the board feels about that, but that's why I suggested that.
Yeah, but then you're going to reduce the size of the bedrooms. So now I'm going from 4 bedrooms to possibly 3 bedrooms because of the size issue, which may not accommodate the need for the desire for my need, so to speak. Because As I grow older, if I have family members move back in with me, they're gonna need the space with their children and me.
Good, thank you. Mr. Moore?
We do have a motion on the table,
Yep.
correct?
Yes, we do.
Okay. I'll just make one more comment that, thank you for speaking. I do understand the importance of that porch space for you. And I'm also another one of your neighbors and wander around the neighborhood constantly, and we're all on our porches. So I understand that, and I think I'm going to vote in favor of this because denying this would have an effect on what they want to do with the first floor. Also using it as a sunroom type of a thing is more or less a modern style porch, somewhere, with windows that can open and, open air feel. And that's, what they want to do. And I think a denial would affect their ability to do what they want to do on the first floor.
Mr.
Am I allowed to speak again after I make the motion?
Sure.
One thing I forgot to mention was one of the reasons I'm in favor is that if we deny this, they'll have to take space out of the green space in the back. I just wanted to add that.
Ms. Robbins?
And I'm in favor of this. I like the fact that they're trying to maintain that aura of that front porch. And it doesn't include a place where we have that garage right in front. We're still adding that, keeping that front porch part, which I think is very important to keeping Royal Oak neighborhoods, that community feel. I think it's going to fit in. I think it's going to look nice.
All right. Looks like I'm the only one who hasn't spoke yet. I really like the rendering that was done of the front elevation. I do have concerns, as some have noted, about how that will appear because this is the most forward house on the block. But it does look nice. But it makes it a big house that would get built there anyway after all these renovations. So you're keeping with the green space that's already there. You're not adding on too much onto it. So I'm torn on this one. But I understand wanting to keep that front space that he's already got right now. And it sort of makes nonsense if you can't use that first floor by not granting the variance other than just a porch that it is right now. So, Ms. Zuby.
Well, we did grant them the opportunity to change that. And I've already, stated that I think it's too much of an encroachment.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? No. Seeing that, we'll move to a vote. Please signify by saying aye and raise your hand. Aye.
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 Okay.
And nay? Okay. There we go.
4-3.
4-3, or 5-3.
5-3.
5-3.
Sorry, my apologies.
That's okay.
You.
So 5-3, so the motion has carried. Congratulations. You may go ahead with your renovation. Okay, final case, 220105, 4240 Olivia Avenue. Mr. Murphy, whenever you are ready.
This site was in front of you last month, and after some discussion, the case was postponed, and the petitioner has withdrawn their request based on previous case, their request based on conversation, and they've come back with a different design. If you recall, the petitioner is proposing to demolish the structures at the site and construct a new single-family home with a front entry attached garage. And the design, the site has a depth of 100 feet, and the petitioner was elected to construct a home that was sited more towards the front of the house, and based on the footprint of the design, he needed to seek a variance request from the front yard setback. Based on the conversation, you'll see the revised survey on the screen, and the petitioner has pushed the house further back. The previous design, he met the minimum required rear yard setback, which is 35 feet. He met it spot on. Based on the conversation, he's pushed the house further back and now has, and I'm going to zoom in on it, the proposed rear yard setback is 25 feet. So he's seeking a variance request to waive 10 feet of that minimum required 35-foot rear yard setback. He still does need a slight variance request to the front yard setback, and that's at 0.4 feet from the minimum required 34.3-foot front yard setback, because we measure the front yard setback to the exterior of the nearest point of living space. And in this case, that's the cantilevered second floor of the proposed house. So when we measure to that cantilever that on the second floor, it doesn't meet the front yard setback by a slight amount.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Murphy. Any questions for Mr. Murphy? All right, seeing none, if the petitioner is present, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Patrick Ray, Hill and Homes, 555 Old Woodward, Birmingham, Michigan. Good to see everybody in person. If you recall, we came in last month and we talked about the house being forward of the houses on either the left and right side. Of course, my phone died right when I came up, so I don't have the survey in front of me. That was the survey we had from before. And someone on the board brought up a great point because of the fact, and I don't know if the survey illustrates this specifically, but the last one would. The houses on both sides have structures attached that go into the backyard setback on their property as well. Of course, it doesn't show it on that one, but the structure on the left and the right side both have protrusions that go back. Somebody brought up, well, why not slide the house back? Because it would certainly make more sense because we're lining up and not, blocking the view of the neighbor on the left and right, which of course we don't want to do, and it's a great point. Embarrassed to say we didn't even think of it. So in doing so, we slid the house back to be in line with the houses on the left and right side and down the street. And the need for the variance, I think it's kind of obvious. I mean, the property only being 100 feet, we discussed this last time. Putting a house up, any house up, and conforming would make the house extremely tiny and almost impossible to park if we put a garage in the back. Mr. Murphy, we were talking about that 0.4 feet for the A portion of the request. I'm going to go ahead and eliminate that. It's stupid to ask for half, that small of an amount and have another variance to give the board the ability to only talk about section B. I can certainly design that away. So I think we're pretty straightforward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the petitioner?
I actually do.
Okay.
It's the exact same design. You simply changed where it's been placed on the lot.
Exactly.
Mr. Eddy.
Yeah, so my question is, what is the practical difficulty that you see? To me, it seems like the practical difficulty is that without the variance, you would not be able to sell a house for a profit that you build, right? If you built one that met the restrictions.
Well, we have on both sides of this property, we have homes that are how far from the road, Mr. Murphy? I can't read that.
Well, they're measured to the nearest point of living space, so they're at 34.3 feet.
So if we're at 34.3 feet and the property is only 100 feet deep, and we have to maintain the front and rear yard setbacks without being able to do the math on the fly, it doesn't really give us a very big property to build and allow people to park in a garage.
Oh, no, I understand that. I mean, I guess the last thing that we have to consider is whether the difficulty was brought on by someone presently having an interest in the property. So there's an existing house, you bought the property and you want to make a new one. How is that not the responsibility of you for having purchased this is the question I have been asking myself since last month.
You're saying because we bought the property and we knew what existed there prior to buying it, we still have the responsibility, I suppose, to build something that was going to fit into Royal Oak, and still adhere to what people want. I mean, I wouldn't want to build a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom or something that someone would, I mean, I guess I don't know how to answer your question regarding a practical difficulty as opposed to just difficulty with the property as it sits as it is.
Okay. No, it's just, I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about that all month, that's how it's worded, is the alleged hardship has not been created by any person presently having an interest in the property. So, okay. Thank you.
It can be built without it, but I would say that there wasn't anybody that would want to see what we would have to put up there in lieu of this. I would think.
Mr. Clark.
Well, Mr. Ray, I appreciate you listening to our concerns last month, and I think the new plan definitely, by pushing the home back, the abutting home does have that same setback now. I appreciate that. I feel that now the streetscape is more balanced, more in alignment, so I appreciate you doing that. Like you mentioned, there is some degree of practical difficulty when you look at the aerial of the surrounding properties, like the lots to the east. Those are 134 feet deep, and the same goes on as you continue east. With this lot is only, 100 feet deep. So as you mentioned last month, the footprint isn't that large. So you do have some struggle trying to fit it on this lot. So I do appreciate you listening to our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Seeing none, we'll open up this to public hearing. Anyone to speak for or against it? Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. You may come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Yes, so hello, I'm Dan Bancic. I'm at 4241 Tonawanda Avenue. I'm just directly behind the property that he's looking at building on. Currently, we do have an issue with green space as far as that area is pretty wet. I mean, my backyard gets really wet. My other neighbors are here too, and our yards are wet. So he's moving it back, which is going to decrease the green space. Also, if that person puts a patio on the back, it's going to bring it even closer to the backyards. My house is 47 feet from the property line, from the back of the house to the property line to the back. This one will be 25 feet. If they put a 16-foot patio on, that brings it 9 feet closer to the property, and it takes away green space. I think the house is too big for what he's trying to put onto the size of lot there is. I know my house is under the size of that one. And I think the space that he's trying to put is just too big. And that's why it's taking up so much space and he's got to go to the back. And I know that last time he put in for it, he was trying to move it to the front, and he changed it. Now he's moving it 10 feet to the back. I didn't have a problem with going to the front, but going to the back now kind of goes into my area. And I think my other neighbors will have the same concern.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Peg Pierce, I'm at 4247 Tonawanda. We are directly behind the fence neighbor. I have the same concern about the size of the home and the fact that if they have a 2-story home, their second floor is going to look right in. It's so close that they're going to be able to see right into my home. And I definitely feel that that will impinge on our ability to feel comfortable and private in the neighborhood. The other thing I would tell you is Olivia is a charming street, and it is one of the very few that I am aware of anymore that doesn't have big second floor houses on the street. And I think it changes the scope of the neighborhood. It also, as Dan talked about, decreases the amount of green space around the area. And I'm concerned that my good neighbors are not going to want to stay in the neighborhood if they feel that the ability for them to have the privacy that we currently enjoy with our backyards affected by this.
Thank you.
And just to anticipate your question, Jeff, no one has spoken to us about the plan, so for what it's worth.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nick Soboleski. I live at 4235. I'm just here in solidarity with my neighbors. I agree with their comments about the size of the proposed building on the size of the lot. Similar to a lot of your conversation earlier today on how a lot of the proposed variances would quote unquote fit in with the existing architecture of the neighborhood, I feel this building would, like Peg had said, not really fit in with that neighborhood. There's a lot of very eclectic buildings, and this would really change the footprint of this bit of Olivia. And as Dan mentioned with the drainage, moving the building back and putting more concrete in an area with poor drainage would probably affect us from that standpoint. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak on behalf of this case? All right, seeing none, we're missing one person on the full board.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can I speak over that?
Sure.
Because I respect the neighbors.
Yep.
Yeah. So, obviously, the name Hillen is not unfamiliar to people who live in Royal Oak. And the one gentleman that came up, I understand the concern. I really do, regarding water. And we have a commitment to non-mitigation. So we have a commitment to not draining any of our water onto neighbors' properties. And that's something that we've been doing since the Great Flood of, I think it was 14. And reinforce that in 21, that we don't want our water being shed to the neighbor's property. Now, if you look at 4240 and the amount of roof space that we actually have there right now, our proposal is to remove all of that and do one single structure with forward drainage. And we no longer have a detached garage, so we now have less points of drainage on the property than currently exists. And while controlling our watershed, I think that the properties to our rear on Tonawanda would actually receive less water with a more sophisticated system as well. The rest of it I can't really speak to because, I mean, progress is progress and change is change, but I do appreciate the comment regarding the water. I just wanted to address the neighbors on that. We try to be good neighbors. Unless somebody else has it.
Mr. Moore, Mr. Clay.
I'm just looking at the aerial here. There seems to be a shed back there too. Is that staying or going?
Going.
Okay, that's going.
More green space, yes. Sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Clay.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, a question for Mr. Murphy. I was going to say, at the time of building permit submittal, and I believe I know the answer, does the engineering department have any control over stormwater management or, preventing water from moving across the neighbor's property? I don't believe a drainage plan is required, but it seems like Mr. Ray is willing to work with the neighbors to, I don't want to speak for you, but
yeah,
some discussion about managing your stormwater to push it forward, or a dry well or whatever it may be.
The city does not have an ordinance requiring individual single-family property owners to retain water onto their own site. No, we do not have such an ordinance.
I wanted you to answer that first, Joe, but the truth of the matter is no, they don't right now. But because of the amount of work that we do here in Royal Oak, and we're doing between 60 and 70 units at a time, we're obviously heavily scrutinized on how much water we're putting out. And so we've adopted our own plan and brought our own engineers in to make sure that our new construction projects don't have that effect on the neighbors the way some others have.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last question too, and I can't recall this, but I haven't looked at the plans in a while. There was a discussion about the size of the home, but same question I had last time, or in a previous case. He meets the 30% lot coverage, correct? So the home is not overbuilt for the lot per the ordinance standards.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, one last question. Because we're missing one board member?
Yeah.
Do you wish? Okay. All right, we'll bring it to this side of the board. Any discussion or motions? Mr. Gavin.
I'll move to approve, what was it, B that was remaining? Yes, item number B.
Okay, Mr. Klatt, second?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Gavin.
I trying to summarize this here. The lot itself, it's a little, they're shallow. I mean, I see that as being, it's going to be difficult one way or the other to make a house work on this lot given the shallow depth. And I think given the petitioner's willingness to work with us and consideration of other concerns of the neighbors, my concerns have been met. I don't, I think I'm satisfied, let's put it that way. So.
Mr. Glatt?
No, I agree with Mr. Gavin's points, and I believe I already addressed my thoughts earlier when I first spoke about that, the size of the home and placement of it on the lot too.
Public comments closed, I'm sorry. Other comments from the board? Ms. Egan?
The ordinance has 4 requirements that all have to be met. And I know Helen homes are beautiful homes, but I don't think any of these requirements are met. The fact that it's a smaller lot doesn't prevent it from being used as a single-family home. It's a single-family home now. Will it do substantial justice to the rest of the neighborhood? I think they've spoken, and they don't think it will. The plight of the landowner is not due to any unique circumstances of the property. There's nothing prohibiting him from building a house that fits within the ordinance. And the alleged hardship is being created by the person presently having an interest in the property. So I just can't support this.
Okay. Mr. Reddy?
I agree with everything that was just said.
Okay. Other comments? Ms. Grant?
I'm going to support this one. I agree that, we didn't like when the house was sticking out in front of all of the others, and the houses next door to this house are also farther back into the lot than is allowed. I don't think this house is really creating more impervious area because the garage is being removed and the shed is being removed. So it seems like it's probably about a net zero as far as impervious area. So.
Let's see. Any other comments? Mr. Moore?
Yeah, I will support this as well. I think he went back and took a look at this, based on some comments we had made at our last meeting, and the houses adjacent to this, they stick into the rear yard setback further than they should as well. And so I feel with the detached garage coming down, the shed coming down, and it's still within the appropriate lot coverage, and he's made statements that he'll work to disposition his stormwater appropriately, so I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. Any other comments? Although I'm torn on this because it sounds like had discussion gone on ahead of time with neighbors, we might have actually maybe been open, maybe not been open to it being more forward to appease them. But should we have not grant this, he probably would have to go to like a 3-story house, which would upset neighbors who already don't like 2-story, and the ordinance doesn't stop the number of stories on a house within a given area. It only says you can't be this high. So I think that would be just as even worse than the 2-story. The house outline is only keeping in depth with the neighbors, and the hardship is the fact that the houses on the street are set already so far back from the front that one way or another, in order to get a respectable house built here for what the new standards are of what people would want to get, you're going to have to give one way or another. And in this case, I'm fine with either way, and especially with taking down the back garage and back shed to give more green space in the backyard to help with giving hopefully some relief on the rain system, as well as the retention that they're planning on pushing all to the front to get rid of it. So because of that, I will be in support of this. All right. If there's no other comments, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, say aye. Raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. We have 5. Mm-hmm. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries.
2. Motion carries. Congratulations.
I believe it was 6.
Oh, 6. Yep,
6 to
yep.
2.
I forgot to count my cents. Thank you. All right. And that concludes new business. We took care of the other business. Is there any general public comment?
Can I ask a question?
You can make comment.
You can
if you'd
make
like.
comment.
Not question and answer segment. It's comment.
You guys all heard my comment. I guess my general comment to you is if you're going to start granting variances to your ordinances, just because you think that's what people want, then you should address that by changing the ordinances instead of by granting people variances to whatever they need to quote unquote build what people want. That seems to be a bit misaligned with your mission as a ordinance granting body. So I appreciate your guys' discussion. Thank you for hearing me. I'm pretty sure it's going to build a wonderful house and I'll be happy with it in the long run, but it seems to go against your mission as a board to just say these are our rules, but we'll bend them because people want that, even though they didn't really fulfill any of the stated hardships that they need to show to get that variance. So thank you all for your time this evening. Hope you have a great evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other comment?
Sorry, and I might be wrong. I might be in the wrong location for this. I'm coming regarding 601 North Main Street, and it's a new location store that is not zoned properly, and I was wondering if that's something you guys are working on or having a hard time getting answers as I come to the city and getting return phone calls. So I was wondering if that is something that we address in this location or if that's somewhere else.
Well, once we close the comment, if the board wants me to answer it, then I'll answer it. Again, this is not the appropriate format for questions and answers.
Right. Okay,
you can,
sorry.
You can say what you want, and then once it's closed, if the board has a question for me, I shall answer the board.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? No? All right. We'll close general comment. You can.
I think we can answer that question. Yep. She let the cat out of the bag in that they did apply. That business owner, we've been in conversation back and forth and back many times, many great deal, entirely too many times over. And they finally did apply to come in front of the board for a variance request, and that'll happen at your meeting in February. And we'll be sending out the notices maybe tomorrow, if not next Tuesday or Wednesday.
All right. Is there any other business? Yes, Mr. Gavin?
When do we do officer elections? Is that
according to your bylaws in February?
Okay.
But
That's
we
okay.
haven't had it since the resignation of our former chair. Anthony's been doing a filling in as the vice chair. You have every opportunity tonight to make a motion for a chair and vice chair if you so choose.
Mr. Clapp?
Yeah, I will take a stab at it, I guess. I mean, what I would say is Anthony's done an excellent job, I agree. So I would like to nominate Anthony to be the chair. And if Mr. Gavin accepts, I would like to nominate him for the vice chair. They both have been on the board for a number of years. They have great experience and have some historical knowledge of past cases that are very helpful at times.
A second.
Okay, there's a second, all right.
Okay.
So
All
that
those in
just
favor?
will hold off till.
No,
Oh, okay.
good. All those in favor?
All those is there any comments or discussion?
For the record, I do accept the nomination.
Okay.
Put him on the spot. Yeah.
Okay.
And I do agree that Anthony has been doing a great job, and I would love him to continue as chair.
Thank you,
So
Anthony.
that I don't have to.
I'll try never to be sick. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and the motion carries. Is there any other?
Congratulations.
Thank you. Is there any other business? If not,
I will make one statement. I
Yes.
appreciate everyone's willingness to come to tonight's meeting, despite the health situation that we still find ourselves in. And obviously, if the state legislature adopts any modifications that allow us to go back to virtual meetings, you will be made aware of that, and that'll potentially be an option. But at this point, we don't have that ability. So I do appreciate everyone's willingness to come out tonight.
I agree with that.
Thank
I
you.
thought we might
Thank
lose
you.
some members, so I'm glad at least we haven't that I know of.
So nobody gets sick?
Nobody here.
And it was great to actually meet everyone in person.
Kind of.
Kind of. See half your face.
It'll be a start until someone someday. Anyway, mystery motion to Mr. Moore.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Ms. Sukin, I saw your hand jump first. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No? All right.
Thank you.
Meeting's adjourned.
Oh.